Thank you for tuning in to All About the Girls, the podcast, where your host, me, Jenny Craig Brown, interviews incredible women to learn what powers them, what inspires them, and how they make our world a better place. Let's get to it. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of All About the Girls, the podcast. Joining me today is Sami Welter, owner of Ella Jayms. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So we'll probably talk a ton about Ella Jayms in a bit, but for those that don't know, give it a Goog. Ella Jayms is a boutique here in Valparaiso that is stunning. If you haven't been, also get over there ASAP. So we'll dive in there a little bit more, but I want to kind of go a little backwards first. So I think you are a Valpo native, which we all love. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing and being born and raised in Valparaiso.
Yeah. I have really fond memories of growing up in Valpo. So I was born and raised here. My parents, my dad immigrated here from China and my mom immigrated here from Hong Kong.
Wow.
My mom she originally landed in California and then made her way to good old Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, that's an interesting place to land.
Yes. So, born and raised here. I'm an only child.
Okay.
So I grew up really close to my cousins that grew up in Portage area. So I'm very, very close with them, but grew up as an only child. Got started into gymnastics like immediately. My mom always tells the story that I was very hyper, very energetic as like a baby. I never wanted to sleep. She says that's probably why she only had one child. But she immediately put me into gymnastics thinking that was going to do something with my energy and calm me down a little bit. And then I went on to be like a super competitive gymnast. And so she had no idea we were going to like dive headfirst into that world.
Run it out.
Yeah, run it out. Because like my parents both are small business owners. They were entrepreneurs growing up. And so they owned a restaurant here in town when I was younger. And so it was one of those things where it was like, I was already doing cartwheels and running around the restaurant. So it was like, okay, get me into like a structured class.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And what was the restaurant they owned?
Jade Garden.
Okay.
Yeah. That's Chinese restaurant on the north side. Yeah. So they sold it when I was like 12 or 13 in middle school, but it's still, it's still here today. I think it's not the same people that my parents sold to, but
so it's changed hands.
Yeah, so it's changed hands a couple of times, I think.
But still in the area. That's really neat.
Yeah.
And how did your parents, how did they end up here in Northwest Indiana? As you mentioned, they didn't start here when they first came to the country.
So I think just family. So like my dad's side of the family is actually in Canada, which I think is also really cool. And then I'm not exactly sure like how my dad ended up in Northwest Indiana, but I know like my mom had some cousins that were already in the area. And so
it was some family.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I feel like when you like are immigrating here, it's like all about like who's sponsoring you to move into the States and then like where's there going to be work and where can we settle and things like that. So she was younger. She's the youngest of her siblings. And so she actually ended up graduating from Maryville High School.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then her siblings were all, a little bit older. So they were like, they went to Purdue Northwest and things like that. So
really, they like honed into the community.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. Yeah. So did gymnastics take you into college at all? Or did you compete even further into school?
So I did not do gymnastics in college, but I cheered. So I ended up doing gymnastics at Valpo High School, which is so well known for just their legacy of like amazing coaches and amazing teams. And so we did that, I did that, and then I suffered a couple different injuries. I had a really bad back injury like throughout my whole high school career. So I knew that like gymnastics probably wasn't going to be in the cards just with how demanding and impacting on the body it is.
Especially with a significant injury.
Yeah. So then I was like playing around with the idea of doing cheer, but I had never like dipped my toe in that world before. Like obviously I could tumble, but I didn't really know anything about anything else cheer related.
It's a whole world.
It's a whole world. Yeah. So I ended up coaching gymnastics my freshman and sophomore year at Purdue, and then knew a few people on the team, and they asked me to try out. And it was kind of one of those things where it was like, if I didn't try out now, like I knew I was going to regret it later on.
Okay.
And so yeah, I was like, okay, well, let me just go to some of the clinics or whatever. And if I make it, I probably won't do it. Like I probably won't accept it because I'm loving my coaching position. I was coaching at a high school down in West Lafayette. And yeah, I like honestly, like the rest is history. I was like as soon as I went to the first clinic, I remember meeting with the head coach at the time, and I was like, look, I know you're like watching me at this clinic. I know you can see that I don't know cheer, but I can tumble, and I want to be a part of this team. Yeah. So
the activity of it all, your body's probably ready for. You just don't know this world.
Yes.
Please let me do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it worked.
And it worked. Yeah, it worked. So I ended up cheering my junior and senior year there. And then at Purdue. And then I moved to Houston after graduation, and I cheered for the Houston Rockets for a couple of years.
That's really cool.
It was cool.
And tell me, that experience has to be, number one, I think it's probably underknown how intense and difficult cheer is, especially at that level.
Yeah.
But you probably, what did that teach you along the way? I mean, that's a very intense cheer.
Yeah. I always, like looking back, I always say how, like, firstly, instrumental Valpo gymnastics was for me, because it went from, like, gymnastics is such a very individualized sport. And that's how it was for me growing up, like through elementary and middle school. And then as soon as I started my freshman year at Valpo High School, it was like the switch flipped. Like it was all about the team. Like we were not in it for ourselves anymore. Anything that we were doing was about the team and about that person next to you.
Yeah.
And I think that was like a huge part into like even the person I am today, because it's more fun to celebrate your successes with a team, right?
Yes.
Like a team of people around you, or even if, you know, to learn from your failures with the team of people around you. So that was super instrumental. And then just going through cheerleading and being like a collegiate athlete or like a student athlete, I mean, time management, you know, and still having to make sure that we're getting a certain grade point average and, you know, and still being able to perform, you know, on the mat or on the court or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of time management, a lot of like goal setting and dedication and determination.
Yeah. That's a great, and the team oriented, like that's a great point, because it's not team necessarily. You're on that beam or you're doing that by yourself, but you're right. You have to cheer and work as a team or else you won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's such a great lesson to learn young.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So you go to Purdue, do some cheer towards the end, go to Houston.
Yep.
What brings you back to this area?
Yeah. So I was in Houston for almost 6 years and with like no family. Yeah. I made really great friends that I'm still so close with today and will be for the rest of my life, I'm sure. But I think it just got tough to like have to get on a plane to see my mom or to see my family and things like that. So I kind of knew that Houston wasn't going to be like my forever home. And to be honest, this is going to sound so silly, but like there are Texas-sized roaches there.
Is there?
Like huge, like the size of my hand.
Nope.
To the point where I wouldn't walk my dog past a certain time because like at night they are everywhere and it's so disgusting. Like all over the sidewalk where I'm like high kneeing it, like trying to avoid
I would be the same.
So I knew, like, I was like, I can't do this forever. Like, I'm never going to get used to this.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get used to this. But thankfully, seeing so many of that made me less scared of spiders. So I'm a little bit thankful for that.
We have some spiders here.
Yes, we do.
A little gross.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Yeah. So came back. What year was it when you came back?
So I first moved to Indy oh my gosh, this is
Sorry, I'm just throwing number of suggestions out at you.
No, you're good. Probably around like 2015.
Okay.
Moved to Indy, lived in Indy for a handful of years. And then my now husband and I mean, I feel like that's a whole story too. We've known each other since middle school. And we were friends. Like we were friends our whole lives. And his sister and her family live in Zionsville. And so while I was living in Indy, like whenever he would come and visit his family, like we would always grab lunch or we would get dinner, or whenever I was home, I would always grab lunch and get like just to catch up. Like friends, we're friends.
But he still lived up here.
He lived up here.
Okay.
And then I don't know, I don't even know what happened, but like something shifted, like the winds shifted or something. And we started dating. Like, we started dating and it was so bizarre. Like I remember telling one of my best friends, Jenny, whose name is also Jenny, she was like, would you ever date him? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, no. And then literally like 3 months later, we're dating. So, so at the time, he already had like his company, his businesses established here. And it was one of those things where it was like, he's not going to move to Indy. We can't do long distance forever.
Yeah.
And so I had just built a house. I think I was like in my second year in this like new house. So we ended up selling it. And then we got engaged. I moved home. I moved in with him. And that was 2019, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you came back here because it seems like from that whole circumstance, it probably made the most sense for you to come back here.
Right.
Well, not established, just maybe less or so at the time.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that your relationship changed like that. And that it sounds like, did you guys keep, like when you were in Houston, were you catching up with him occasionally on the phone? Or was it really like, oh, hey, when you're nearby in India, then let's have dinner?
Not so much in Houston. I want to say he was traveling all over too. Like I think while I was in Houston, because it was both right after graduation, he was still figuring out what he wanted to do with his life. So he, spent a summer in Naples, Florida caddying, and then went to Scotland and was a caddy. Okay. So I think he was kind of all over the world as well. And then I was obviously across the country. And so I don't really remember like calling him or anything like that at that point. But
not really in person. Yeah,
totally.
And then so you had mentioned his businesses here were already really established at that point. What is his business?
Yeah, so he is in real estate management and development. And so at the time, he had acquired, several commercial and residential properties in Valpo that he was managing and renovating and things like that. And then after I moved up here, oh my gosh, this is like, we're doing a whole thing. Like all these memories are popping up. But if you're familiar with the Vailview building downtown where Ella Jayms is in, when we started dating, that was an idea that he had. And I remember him like walking me around the block. There was a house there where the building is now. And I remember him walking me down the block. And at the time, ellajayms.com had already launched. And he was like, this is my vision for this area right here. And he's like, wouldn't it be cool if Ella Jayms, like you were able to build your own brick and mortar right here? And I just was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like,
that'd be cool. Sure.
Yeah. And then, sure enough, then like plans started getting drawn, like, things really started moving. And then, and then we opened up the building in 2020. So it really was like a 1.5 year time frame from,
And then of course 2020 hits.
And then 2020 hits.
Pandemonium.
Yeah. So he's been doing that for the last, I think his company on the Wayne Enterprises side of things is, had just celebrated their 10th year.
I see.
And then there's a little like offsets from that too. He's doing a lot of real estate development out in Oregon, which is kind of random and totally across the country. And But he got connected kind of in the golf world. So he's doing some workforce housing for.
I was just going to mention, you mentioned he was a caddy in Ireland.
Yes, in Scotland,
In Scotland. So he's been it sounds like big into golf.
Yes, obsessed.
I think the Welter family is big into golf,
yes.
when I remember.
Absolutely.
I remember a journeyman distilling putt or something.
Yeah.
So we've got some golf background and then in the real estate background. And then that comes together with you guys as far as Ella Jayms. And it really is that came to fruition. So your store, your boutique is in that Valeview building.
Yep.
So it actually happened, which is so interesting. And it probably had to feel crazy to come full circle with.
So crazy.
We took a walk one time and he told me this dream. And now you built your store in that location.
Yeah.
Just as you guys discussed then.
Yeah. It was really cool because he had the idea like for a cafe here and a boutique here and apartment living up top and
now there's Fluid and there's
Fluid
and there's apartments
oh
up
my gosh,
and that's such a perfect spot for Ella Jayms. I think it's just such a perfect vibe for that area, for Valeview, for sitting next to Fluid. It's perfect.
Yeah,
you guys, you've done a really amazing job. So when that building opened in 2020, tell me a little bit about how Ella Jayms kind of came into the brick and mortar space. So you mentioned online, you already had a boutique. So kind of maybe start from there. How did you do that? What made you get into an online boutique? Tell me about how that all came to.
Yeah, sure.
And the name too. I would love to know the history behind that.
Absolutely. So I actually started off at Purdue in pre-physical therapy athletic training.
Okay.
So not in the fashion retail world at all. And then kind of struggled my freshman year. I think just being homesick and just, I don't know, just struggled, didn't get good grades. It just was not working out. And I think that's the one time in my life, to be honest, that my mom was obviously my mom has guided me my entire life, but she's always kind of let me fly. If I'm about to fall off a cliff, she'll catch me. But this was the one time.
Let you go, yeah.
Yeah, this was the one time I remember her being I think we need to relook at this,
Really?
Yeah, and so we kind of had a full conversation, and my uncle was involved and he was. I had his niece from marriage was in the retail management program at Purdue and had just done an internship at Disney and just was so successful in her classes and just really loving it. And so my mom was you've always had a interest in fashion and that whole world. So maybe this is something that you might want to look at, which I feel is the opposite. I feel sometimes parents want to stray you away from fashion or
especially any passion that might not be a big money maker or an easy money maker.
Totally.
Fashion is tough.
Yeah.
Store owner, someone that runs their own boutique, that's just hard.
Yeah.
The consumer side of that's tough. Yes. So most parents will probably be well, that's a fun passion, but don't go. She pushed you towards it.
And
that's great.
She kind of pushed me towards it. She always knows best for sure. But so after I graduated, I really had some great opportunities working for people at the beginning of to launch my career, who all of my bosses at the time, they were so empowering and were able here, Sami, here's these are our goals, these are your responsibilities, take it and run with it. Make it however you want. And so I had two jobs, they were both affiliated. So I started off managing a boutique in Houston. It was Francesca's Collections. I think it's just called Francesca's now, but it was their flagship store, their number one, highest volume in the country. Francesca's was also headquartered in Houston. And then the founder of Francesca's also had another company. It was a jewelry manufacturing company. And so after I left Francesca's, she approached me and asked me to come with her to her other company, where again, she just was so hands-off. I mean, I remember she ended up hiring me on as an account executive. So a sales position in this jewelry manufacturing company where we designed and did a lot of private label and brand development for other retailers. And probably not even a month into my start date, I remember sitting in her office with her and her sister. It was a very small, like family-owned company. And they were like, we're going to promote you to director of sales. And I was like 24 at the time. And so she was like, we're going to promote you to director of sales. And I was like, okay. And I'm like with my notebook and I'm like, what do I need to know? Like, where do we, like, what's next? What are we doing? And I remember her sister being like, who was like scary, her sister being like, well, you're either going to sink or you're going to swim.
Oh my gosh.
And like my heart is beating fast.
Son of a bricks.
Yeah. And so I just remember looking at her being like, okay, well, I'm swimming. And then they gave me no direction.
Oh my God. You're probably internally melting, but oh my gosh, turtle, I am going to do this.
Yes.
Let's go swim.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
All she said was, you're going to spend a couple weeks. We had an office in New York too, who our director of sales at the time, he was based out of our New York office. So they said, you're going to go spend 2 weeks with our director of sales in New York. And like, that was my training. Like that was my direction. And so I was like, yeah,
and this was an unfulfilled, like, this is a new position here.
Yeah.
Right? Like they weren't filling it for someone. So there is no position. So you're almost having to learn the role, build the role, and fulfill it all at once.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So like in my early 20s, it was so cool because it was like, whoa, I have like all of this to learn and all of this responsibility is obviously weighing on me. And so it's like, I'm going to do the absolute best I can. And, you know, back then I feel like I think times have changed, obviously. This was like 12 years ago. And it was one of those things, you know, the saying like, be there before your boss, and you're there, like you arrive before your boss does and you leave after your boss leaves.
Yes.
So it was one of those things where I put in so many hours and just to learn the business, right?
Yeah.
Because then I was having to lead a team of very seasoned account executives who were 5, 10, 15 years older than I was at the time.
So you know, like I have to be on point.
Oh my gosh.
Or else they're just going to pummel me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so I think being able to have those experiences, and then also, you know, with my family being small business owners and entrepreneurs, I always knew that there was going to be a time where I was going to develop something of my own, right? And to be able to call my own and work for it because it was my own. And so I ended up a few years into this company as director of sales, I ended up starting to like business plan, you know, just kind of like on the side, like at night, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just kind of dream.
Journaling a little, taking some thoughts in.
Yeah.
Kind of probably seeing what you love, what maybe you don't love, how you would do things differently, that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. And so then I remember, so we would always go to trade shows and things like that, right, with our collections. And I remember one year being in New York, and we had such a fun team. Like, I'm still close. Like, actually, one of my team members back then is also a team member at Ella Jayms today.
Oh my gosh,
so
cool.
it's been a really cool journey. But I remember telling a couple of the girls, like, this time next year, like, I'm going to come back to this trade show as a buyer. Like, meaning, like, I'm going to have my own company. Like, I'm going to start this. And so I kind of, like, I think I told one of the girls and then, like, just kind of kept it to myself. And then it gave me a year. It gave me a year to like finalize a business plan, finalize a name, do all the things. And then that next year, I was there with my little badge that said like Sami Ma is my maiden name, Sami Ma, buyer for Ella Jayms. And that was my first trade show where I bought like the first orders for ellajayms.com. But going back to the name that you were asking about, so I had such a hard time with this because I knew that I wanted whatever company I was going to have. So if that was going to look like a boutique or anything else, I wanted it to honor my mom and my grandmother. I grew up with the two of them and just have so many memories of the three of us, whether it was like just going to the grocery store or going on trips or, you know, my mom would always drive me, like we were driving all around Ohio, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Michigan, like for gymnastics meets. And oftentimes my grandma would come with us, you know, so it was like all that time in the car and, you know, and all the things. So
3 generation like family I love that. Like the closeness that the three of you had is really special.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people have that, especially the three generations. Like sometimes you have a parent maybe that you're closest with, or you have that really strong relationship with one of those, your parents or even a sibling. But for it to be you, your mom, and your grandmother, that's really special.
Yeah, it was super special. So I just wanted something to honor them. And that's kind of the way Ella Jayms is set up now. Well, first of all, Ella is named after them. My grandmother's name was Elizabeth. My mom is Agnes. And so I spent months like switching up the names and letters and like what's going to build.
Naming them just to figure out what their name would come out as. Yeah.
And then I was like, Ella, like the A from Agnes, Ella, like L from Elizabeth. And then James honestly was just kind of like, I was like, oh, this sounds good together, and kind of the juxtaposition of masculine and feminine.
Yep.
I originally was supposed to spell it traditionally, James. And at the time, probably about 9 years ago, when I was first starting to Google like names and things like that, Ella Jayms kept popping up as a voice actress. She was like the voice of GPS systems, like the Tom,
really?
It was so random.
So random.
So I was like, I don't want that to keep popping up.
Yeah.
Somebody is.
You want something that no one else is using. Yeah.
Yeah. So we changed up the spelling of James, Jayms. And for branding and kind of who we are now, it's just been perfect. Like a little unique, a little extra flair.
Yep. But it's so obvious. There's no question of the name. Like when you see it, it's Ella Jayms.
Yeah.
But it's spelled in a really fun, interesting way. It does make you guys unique.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. And so then that's kind of like how we curate for this store is we're never overly trendy, because I want three generations to be able to come in and shop together, right?
So
and make the memories and create the memories that like my mom and my grandma and I had shopping and spending time together. So
if you want those three generations to come into your place, then you have to serve all three. And it sounds like you're doing that perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah. So you kind of, it sounds like you first try it out online, and then the stuff that does really well online, that's more classic for those generations, can come into the store as well.
Yeah.
Is that what it sounds like?
For sure.
That's really impressive. And so many people, especially you mentioned, times have changed a ton. I think you're absolutely right. A lot of folks would have said, especially, when did you open the brick and mortar?
2020.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. So I was like, did you push it or did you still do it? A lot of people would have not only not done it or pushed out the brick and mortar, hey, let's do that at a later time. They might have even said, let's just not do it at all, because I can just do online and it'll be fine. And then I'll promote it maybe locally, but it'll be online.
Yeah.
What really made you want to push for that brick and mortar?
I needed to bring Ella Jayms to life. Like, I needed to be in front of people. I needed to connect with people. So like the first 3.5 years when we were just online, it was just me. Like it was just a one-woman show. And
you're like finding everything, buying everything, making the decisions on what that should be, putting it in online.
Designing the website.
Sending it, everything.
Yes. Shipping.
Oh my gosh.
Things. And then I'm going to say we, because I've always used we since day one, even though it was I.
That's okay.
But
we the company,
right?
Yeah.
But we would do, like, so we started in Indy, and when I was living in Indy, and we would do pop-up shops like farmers markets, or I got connected with a couple of like different spas in Indy, and we would do pop-up shops there on the weekends. And those were my most favorite times, right? Like being able to see customers face to face and build relationships and have them touch and feel the product and get excited about it. And see multiple generations coming together, right? Because that's the whole purpose. That was the whole foundation. And so Matt, actually, my husband, is really the one, and I don't give him enough credit for this. Because we like to give each other a hard time, of course. But like that night, I remember when he walked me around the block and was like, could you imagine Ella Jayms here and things like that. I still kind of fought him on it. I was like, I don't want you as my landlord. Like,
this could be problematic. Yeah, that could be tough.
But it ended up working out. And he was instrumental in like believing in Ella Jayms and believing in me and like the vision that I had for it. And so we started designing this space at the end of 2019, right? Like not thinking anything was about to happen.
Of course. Yeah, not knowing.
And then we were originally going to open like March or April of 2020, of course, when everything was happening. And then we ended up only being delayed a couple of months. We ended up opening June 13th.
Oh, great.
And it was right around the time, I think, when like Indiana State allowed restaurants and retail to be like at 50% capacity.
Sure.
You know? And we were all still like masks were mandated. And I remember interviewing for my first team member right before the pandemic started. And then I remember reaching out to her being like, Abby, I don't know when we're going to open.
Obviously, we've got some other trials happening right now, but
like, I appreciate you so much. And I like totally, like, I absolutely want you to be a part of this team, but I understand if you can't wait. Like, if
you need to find something else.
You need to find something else. And she was the best. I mean, she just was like, I'm here for you. Like, I'll roll with the punches. You just let me know when you're ready.
And you didn't know her previous.
No.
That you interviewed.
Yeah. Met her at Fluid Lincoln Way. And
really?
Yeah. And, but yeah, her first day ended up being when like a literal semi-truck was delivering like our fixtures and some of our inventory. And so I was like, wear comfy clothes.
I need you to literally help me unload this.
Yes. Yeah. It was, yeah. So she was in the thick of it with me, and I'm so grateful for her. She ended up being with us for several months and then like was moving on to something else, but we still stay in touch. And
that's so great. You've got those key people.
But yeah, but it just was really important for us to like bring Ella Jayms to life. And even to this day, when I say, oh, we opened the summer of 2020, or back then when I was like, we're about to open, everyone's like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, or they would give me that face, you know, like, oh, I don't
especially
know.
In such a scary time.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar is hard.
Yeah.
Always.
But
right. It's such the time. It's like, man, that's a big jump. But you knew, it sounds like you knew that's what would build it to kind of bring it to life.
Yeah. I think like with who we are today and who I knew I wanted Ella Jayms to become, it honestly was like, I hate to say it, but it was like perfect timing, because it allowed us to really build a community and like build really incredible relationships with our customers. Like we have our OG customers who I vividly remember their first time walking in through that door. Because I remember thinking, like, so the first day we opened, it was a lot of my friends and my family that came and supported us. And I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, what is it going to be like when a complete stranger walks in through this door? Like how great, like it's just going to, like, I knew like my mind was going to be blown. Like, you want to spend time in this store, like with us, you know? So I vividly remember dozens, like probably my top 50 customers or whatever that have been with us since the very beginning. Like, I just remember like the interaction I had with them. I mean, obviously, because it's like we're all wearing masks. We know each other by our eyes.
Yeah.
Like, we're all going through this like really unprecedented time together. You know, some of us, Matt and I also got married in 2020.
Oh my gosh.
So then like a lot of brides were coming in that were having to like, they were looking for new dresses because they were now getting married in their backyard or like in their driveway or
toning it down, or we need something now.
Yeah.
I can't get that done in time.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could probably really relate to them. And that's probably so helpful for someone coming to you in those moments, is having someone like you to talk to that not only can help me with my issue, but also knows what I'm going through.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really impressive. Man, so also you're building a brick and mortar with your fiance while you're planning to somehow get married in 2020 while all this is happening, while also opening a brick and mortar while all of the pandemic is kind of unfolding.
Yeah.
And did you get married before you opened, or did you open first and get married after?
We got married after.
Sounds like that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got married on October 15th, so 10/15/20.
Okay.
We were supposed to get married in Florida. My in-laws belong to a golf club down there called Longboat Key Club. And so we had the wedding probably like 90% planned, because I wanted it planned before the brick and mortar opened, right?
Yeah, I would have
like strategic.
Boxed and put away and ready, and then we'll go to the brick and mortar.
Exactly. And then I remember it was July 4th weekend. My sister-in-law and her family were up here. And I don't know who made the comment, maybe my mother-in-law or someone. They were like, yeah, we're going to rent an RV and pile the whole family in and drive down to Florida for the wedding. And I was like, what? They are not RV people. I mean, I guess they could be if they wanted to be.
But this was surprising to you.
But this was so shocking to me that I just was like, no, like I am not going to have them do something like so out of their norm just for this wedding. And then like 99% of our guest list was expected to travel down there. Like it just wasn't
You're like, wait,
feasible.
this is like, especially because at the time, travel was hard.
Right.
Flights were iffy.
Right.
And then everything's dependent. So if they're 90% going down there, you're thinking, what are we doing?
Yeah. And
This
like,
is
if they're
maybe
not
really
comfortable
hard
for the family.
Yeah.
And so we ended up deciding like that weekend, like we're going to cancel the Florida wedding. We're going to move it closer to home. So then we ended up planning.
So this thing that you already planned is now you're turning it off.
We ended up,
oh my goodness.
Yes, we ended up planning a whole new wedding in less than 3 months. But I immediately was like, Susie's is going to do our cake. I'm going to get 27 Entertainment to be a DJ.
Okay.
And
Let's get my connections with
yes.
the people I know in my community.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And so it was just like it all was a huge blur, but like it all lined up. It all happened. We kept the date, which was funky because it was a Thursday, but we're like, whatever, we're keeping it.
Do it. Yeah.
And then we ended up getting married at Olympia Fields Country Club. Illinois at the time, like allowed for more than 50 people to gather outside. So we ended up having, I think, like 85 people underneath this beautiful tent with like heaters and lights. And yeah, like it ended up being so perfect, but it was also such a major blur. I do not recommend. I tell a couple of my best friends, like, when you're ready to get married, like please be sure it's not in the middle of a pandemic and you're not also opening up a business.
Don't do other big things. Yeah, that is two humongous undertakings.
Yeah,
in like 6 months of one another.
I mean, Matt might tease me for saying this, or I might get in trouble, but he was like throwing up that year. Like he was like so sick and stressed and like anxiety like took over him. And so because
he also just built Valeview, right?
Yes.
Like that was just brand new.
Yes.
And so also you just built this building.
Like, are we going to get tenants?
Able to move? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we're so grateful. Everything ended up like there's been a wait list ever since the building opened. Like, you know, Ella Jayms obviously took off. We got married. And so he'll tell people now, like, yeah, I stopped getting sick after we got married. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't know. If
it's like a solid 8 months of concern for him. Yeah. But it is big. That's a huge undertaking. And I think women, I don't know how we do it, but the amount I think any woman can handle is just this amazing amount. And I think it's great to have a partner if you can. Yeah. That always helps things. Yeah. But it's so impressive that, you're not throwing up. It's a blur.
There was no time for throwing up.
Yes. Yeah. That's how I think our brains work. Yeah. It's like, okay, we'll deal with me later. I literally have these things to do and I'm going to run with that. And it's maybe what keeps us sane. But that's really impressive. Well done.
Yeah.
Thanks. And now still, of course, successful. It seems to be, and you have both, you mentioned, so you still kept the online, and so everybody can shop Ella Jayms, but if you're local, you can come here to the brick and mortar and shop, which I love because I think for me, it's fun, and that's why I'm so happy that you did it, because for me, I want to feel it. I want to touch what I'm buying. Right. I want to oftentimes try it on. Fits are so weird through time and different companies and all that stuff. So I love that you have that option for those that might want that or prefer that instead too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the sense of community. Like I mentioned earlier, I think off camera, I love to shop the little boutiques because I want to take a little piece from all of those boutiques. And I want to remember that one boutique that I got to meet the owner or whatever it is. And I think you're providing that here to Valparaiso, but also the people that come through Valparaiso too, whether they go to VU or they're here for a game or whatever it is. Yeah. And I think it's really neat that you can provide that. And it's a really unique, fun offering.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. The EJ girls, like I call my team the EJ girls, and they're so sweet. And I always tell them, like, everyone comes here for you. Like they can buy a sweater anywhere, right? Like you can buy a dress at a gazillion different places, but people are gonna come here for you, and they're gonna remember Ella Jayms because of the people that are
Absolutely
part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've all been amazing. And then,
and how big's your team now?
So we're actually kind of small right now, but it's small but mighty. So I have one team member who works remotely for us in Houston. That's Lindsay, who I met when I first basically moved to Houston.
Great connection.
Yes. Yeah. She manages our website. So the design of it, uploading new product and things like that. So she wears a couple different hats. She's our e-commerce manager, and she does a little bit of HR coordination. She helps a little bit with like curating our assortment.
Kind of the behind the scenes
look. Yeah, absolutely. And then I've got 3 girls in store and me. So there's 5 of us.
Right.
Yeah, there's 5 of us right now. And everyone they're incredible. Like they're just beautiful human beings, and they all complement each other so well. Like none of them knew each other before.
I was just going to ask. Okay.
No, and it's like, for me, like being on like the outskirts of, obviously
you're in it, but you're not your team.
Right.
Your team is their own little bubble. And so it's probably fun to watch.
Oh my gosh. It's one of the best things. It's one of the most rewarding things, seeing them like grow personally and professionally, but then seeing the relationships they form with each other. And it's always been, we've always had 100% women on our team. And it's just been so cool that there's never been any of sometimes the cattiness, the drama that can come with that.
Yes. Like, I don't like Susie, and I'm going to go tell Sammy that I don't like Susie, and I'm not working with her. And
never.
And I love that.
Grateful.
We're really lucky here because same thing. We're not 100% women, but we are about 80% women. I think Dylan and Carson have mixed up our numbers
love
there.
it.
So, and same thing. It's not necessarily in our world, not on purpose at all, but it's scary if you have that many women in one building. Is it going to get catty, or is there going to be, but it's been wonderful. Mm-hmm. And same thing, is everyone spending the night at each other's houses and having sleepovers and hanging out? No. Do they all get along and support one another here? Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think we can say that for our whole team. But being that many women, it's always, you never know how it's never know. Is everybody, and I think just having a team that's consistently growing, it's hard to know who will get along with who, how that's going to work out. And if you can have that many people already and that get along great, that's fantastic.
It's been really cool. It's been really fun. I like to say that we like our interview process is a little bit intense because it's making sure that we're a right fit for that person. That person's a right fit for us.
You don't want to waste their time either. If it's, it's just as hard for you to keep hiring as it is for that person to keep looking.
Right.
So if it's not a great fit, I'd rather know much before you come in. Yeah. And same thing, you're working with these other people, and in a smaller company, it's just harder because you work closer.
Right.
And then it's that mentality of like, I might get a text on the weekend, or it might be a question if somebody wants to try to shift. It's just so much more close knit, and that is great, but it's also makes the communication more important.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So any future plans? Do you want to have 2 brick and mortars? Do you just have the plans for the one right now? Tell me, do you have any future of Ella Jayms?
Yeah. I would love to have Ella Jayms all over the place for sure. So I think that is still definitely in the horizon.
Potential in the future.
Yeah. And continue growing even within Valpo. Mm-hmm. Since day one, since we launched online even, our tagline has always been shop with purpose. And we've always donated a portion of every purchase
to amazing.
A local nonprofit. And so we do a lot with different nonprofits here in Valpo. And I just think that it's important for us that the more we can grow even within Valpo, the more we can give back, right? And the more we can partner with amazing nonprofits that we have right here in our community.
Yep.
And then I think next, that's always been part of the game plan is to have multiple locations and really grow and expand Ella Jayms, and maybe even into different categories. We do get asked quite often for a men's version of Ella Jayms.
Okay, that's fun.
We have a small happy little kids corner now, and maybe expanding that into a full store down the line.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Great ideas for future growth.
Yeah.
You could have a little men's section or the men and kids store or something that includes all three.
Yeah.
But I like where the premise came from, and I like where you guys are.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
I think in like the more foreseeable future, we're diving a little bit deeper into like styling photo shoots. We just through word of mouth. This isn't something that we've like marketed or advertised, but we've had just different local businesses include us in styling for their brand shoots, or if they have something like a big project coming up, then we'll like, style their models and fit their models. And we have a whole setup that we bring like on location and things like that. So that's been something that we've been diving deeper into and having a really, really great time doing. And then also like closet and wardrobe organization.
Ooh, that's fun.
So like whether it's complete wardrobe styling, like what do I need to have in my closet? Like help me build my wardrobe, depending on like if there's been a lifestyle change or you're getting a new job or you're leaving a job or whatever it might be, to then how to organize it within a closet or how to design a closet that makes the most sense for your lifestyle. So having people inviting us into their homes to kind of get a deeper, in-depth look into that and how we can assist with that.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I love the growth. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, so we kind of talked about your background and a lot about Ella Jayms. I think you've mentioned a couple of them already, but tell me about some of the women in your life along that journey that have really impacted where you are today.
Yeah. My mom, for sure. I don't know. I still do not know how she like raised me and was a business owner and in the restaurant industry nonetheless, where she was literally there every single day. But so she had to have been in multiple places at one time, because I don't know how she
made it work.
That. Yeah. And then like was picking me up and dropping me off at school every day because I refused to ride the bus, and taking me to all my gymnastics meets and doing all this
so
things.
much.
And so
gymnastics is sports in high school are just really intense, but gymnastics especially, like it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So I don't know how she did it, but now it's been really cool, like with having Ella Jayms and being able to ask her like about her leadership style or how she managed certain things, or and how
That's
she kind of did it all. And so I've definitely, every day I'm pulling something from her experience, or she's giving me some words of wisdom and things like that. And yeah, she's just been such a huge part of my life. And yeah, so my mom for sure. And then, I grew up really close with my aunts, and my best friends that I've had for decades, since I was young. And so they inspire me every day, like as moms, as
and coming back, you probably got to reconnect with a lot of those folks too.
Yeah.
Especially if there were some that are still in the area as well.
Yeah.
So that's really fun too, is just to get to see that people that have impacted you for so long.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really great.
Absolutely. And then I just feel like our local business community too is so empowering, and it's so much collaboration.
Yeah, Nikki Kaler, you mentioned earlier. Nikki Kaler is a great example of someone who wants to work with those local businesses. Yes. She wants to help local businesses. She wants to purchase from local businesses, and especially women-owned.
Yeah.
Allison Skates from Fluid is another great example of someone who always wants. This region is a really great one for that, and it's been so cool to see. Like those two women are two that came to my mind immediately. You're also one of them that I see out in the community, trying to work with others, help others, collaborate. And it's just really, because there is so much we can do when we pull all of those resources, but also thoughts, ideas. What you do is so different from what Allison does at Fluid, but that means that you probably also have some different experiences that can help one another. Yeah. And so, but if we don't talk and we don't connect, then that won't happen.
Right.
And I think that that's exactly what you're doing, it's what they're doing, and it grows the community. So I think it's really special. Yeah. Those are some great ones. Yeah, they're really great local business owners. Tell me about, and you mentioned earlier that you kind of went to, you're going to school, you changed some things along the route. So tell me how different your career is now from what you thought it would be back when.
Mm-hmm. It's like two different worlds. I mean, I obviously growing up in gymnastics and going through different injuries and things like that, that's kind of what initially led me into physical therapy and athletic training. And there's a part of me still that was like, if I ever were to go back to school, like I would go back to school for that, right? But now it's just a whole other world. It's definitely more colorful, I would assume.
That's a great way to put it.
More colorful, more creative. I think when I look, if I were looking back at physical therapy, obviously that's, you want to help somebody, right? In that regard, like in that career, like you're helping somebody walk again or regain strength and, whatever, overcoming an injury.
Make them feel better.
Right. And then I think for us, or for Ella Jayms now, I'm still doing that in a way, right? Like seeing someone's confidence immediately light up their face when they get an outfit on that fits their body the way it's supposed to, or being able to volunteer for a local nonprofit or write that check for the nonprofit even, like whatever that might be. So I think every day we're trying to make an impact, a positive impact on someone's life. And so I think that's where it's still kind of similar, but definitely more fun and colorful in the fashion world.
I think that's spot on. It's really important. We joke internally here about, all about the girls and what I wear every year. I've infamously, I think the first year I wore my polo or lifer polo because I didn't know what I was even doing, and a skirt. And the next year I wore a dress. And I think the next year I wore a dress. And after year 3, when it felt really stable and it felt like, okay, I'm not crazy. This idea is going to work and we are really going to grow this and make it big, is when I got into the world of, I really want to wear something that night that it's all about confidence for me. It's all about showing our audience that's attending that night who I am as a person via that outfit. And it's so interesting. I've done, I had an outfit that had the chiffon sleeves to the ground. So it looks like almost like a cape, or that was the superhero. Everybody called it the superhero gear. I wore a one-piece jumpsuit. It looked like a tux, but it was a jumpsuit. I wore a faux hawk. I wore this year like a metallic. But the whole premise is, I'm certain there are people who are like, what the heck is she doing? Why does she have a faux hawk? But for me, it's all about that. It's all about, if I feel 100% me and 100% confident, I can do whatever. I can go talk to 400 women. I can go hopefully instill some sort of thoughts of mine that will help them grow in some way. But for me, it really is important. And I think that maybe we don't talk about that enough, but I think, there's TikToks and there's all these Instagram accounts about, like, if you dress the way you want to dress, that makes you feel good, you will be better.
Right.
Like it or not, believe it or not, it really is the case where when you can put something on that makes you feel good, you will feel good. And if you feel good, you will be better at whatever you're doing that day. And I think you really are doing that. Like, styling people for those big things, then they feel good. If they get up in the morning and if I just showed up at All About the Girls with what I wore last Wednesday night to dinner, it's a different vibe than if I show up where people are like, whoa, I love the awe. I love being a little different. I love showing people who I am. Because you don't get to do that every day. Sometimes you really do have to put on the suit jacket and do the job. And that's great. But I think there's ways to do that in a fun way, right? That's working with you. But then we can show ourselves in these different ways and gain that confidence and show off kind of who we are and our own uniqueness through dress. And I think it really is important, and it builds that confidence a ton. I think that's really important.
For sure. It's such a form of self-expression, like you said. And it's like, it's how you want people's first impression of you to be.
Absolutely.
Right? So
absolutely. And tell me, big obstacles. I think pandemic during the opening of your store is a big obstacle. Are there others that you want to talk about? And I think the reason we ask is, you said earlier, learning from those people. How did your mom get it all the way? I love that you mentioned that, because number one, I think most of us look back at our parents, especially our mamas coming up. I can say the same thing. Like my mom raised 3 kids while working sometimes full-time, sometimes part-time for the years, depending. She had to care for us during summer when there was no one home all day. All of these things that play into it. And you're like, how the heck did she manage that?
Right.
How did she manage that and still have her sanity today?
Yes, yeah.
How did she manage that? We're all still alive today. You know, all of these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, really big thing. So are there any other obstacles that you've had to overcome through that journey that are maybe similar?
I think you're right. I think the pandemic definitely was a very unexpected hurdle to have to get over business wise and personally too, right?
It's still a struggle.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very, very grateful to have had in a very easy childhood, a very with supportive family, amazing friends. And so I'm very lucky in that regard. I would say maybe a personal obstacle has been about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I got really sick. In my mid-20s, when I was down in Houston, I had gone through a couple of different things and started getting some weird symptoms and got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And so it was something always kind of in the background that I was managing, just with medication and lifestyle changes.
Diet or lifestyle, just trying to see what works and what doesn't.
Right. And so that was kind of a thing that has always been in the background. But then last January, February, something was very, 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 very wrong. And I mean, it's actually a little bit hard to talk about, but long story short, I was diagnosed with lupus at the beginning of this year, and then had to undergo a few different procedures, found out that that the disease has really attacked my kidneys. And so I think for the last year and a half, it did affect who I wanted to be for Ella Jayms. I mean, thankfully, like I said, my team is incredible, and I didn't share with them at first what was going on. It was the weirdest thing, Jenny. I think as humans, as women, it's we have this, and I don't know if it was adrenaline, because I would wake up every morning and I would go to work and I would work and I would give everything I had to give.
Yeah, you're making it through to this point. So it seems how the heck could you even do that with this undiagnosed?
Right.
Yeah, most wouldn't be able to, I would assume.
Well, and then I would get home at night and I would just crash. To the point where Matt would know we're not planning anything in the evenings anymore because you're going to be done. You're
just not going to be able to do it.
You're done.
Yeah.
And so, but it just was wild. And so when I moved back to Valpo, it was really hard for me to keep a rheumatologist because they were either retiring or moving, or it was very few and far, very hard to come by a good rheumatologist in our area. And so when I was
rheumatologist, so for those that I only know a little bit about this because I have a friend that has lupus, but basically they are, I think, in short, a hormone and body makeup doctor that helps you figure out how to work with lupus. Is that
kind of? Yeah,
I think I'm saying that.
Yeah,
dumb, but.
No. Yeah, yeah, kind of. It's just immunology. So I guess it's more internal medicine.
The working of the body versus any individual diagnosis.
Right. Okay. And they specialize in immunological disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, which, are two probably more popular, unfortunately, than lupus. But all of those autoimmune disorders are still such a mystery. There's been incredible advances, but I think they're just never spoken about, or they're they're pretty rare.
Get them, how to deal with them. I think it's also different per person. So how do we, control and manage and all that stuff too is so different for every person. It's hard to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. And and at the time I couldn't get into a doctor, and I just was in so much pain every single day. to the point where my husband, and I can't even imagine like his perspective on this. I don't think we've never really fully had a conversation about it because I think we're still kind of in the thick of it. So we're not like,
Yeah, you're just diagnosed. So at least it's great to know, but you're still working through it.
Right.
Sure.
But he ended up in the middle of the night. And I don't know if you know Lisa Kiger. She works in like operations management for community health.
Okay. The name's really familiar.
Yeah. And so at the time last year, Matt was on the Chamber of Commerce board with her. And I think I ended up somehow getting forwarded the emails. I think his initial email was literally at like 3 or 4 a.m. on a like Sunday, the middle of the night into Monday, because he was like, Lisa, like, I don't know if there's anything you can do. But my wife is like writhing in pain in her sleep and she doesn't even know it. We need to get her into a rheumatologist. And then
what hurts? I don't understand. I don't know this well enough. Like
joints, muscle fatigue, like
body aches.
Yes. It like feels like you have the flu times a million all the time.
Ugh.
And like for me, like, and you know, like we all get exhausted. Like we all have fatigue and things like that. This is like where you feel like you have no more muscle. Like your muscles are non-existent. Like you can't like lift your arms. Like it hurts. Like it's wild. And so, but yeah, Lisa Kiger ended up getting like the next day I had a doctor's office call me. And I didn't know that Matt had emailed. Like I didn't know any of this. So it was just like someone was calling me from a doctor's office. Like, and they were like, can you come in this week? And it was just like,
you're probably like, what is happening? And the answer is yes.
Yes, yeah.
Like, I don't know how this happened, but I'll take you up on it.
So I don't know, but it's just been such a long journey. And like, I ended up finally telling my team because I didn't know how long I was going to be able to sustain. Like it was a whole year of me coming into the store, being in the office, and then just dying at night. Like, I know that sounds very dramatic, but
and just the crash is so intense. Yeah.
And then I think the big turning point that I had was like in early December, we hosted an Ella Jayms holiday open house, and it was incredible. Like we had one of our girls sang, we had a pianist like set up in the store.
Gosh, amazing.
We had permanent jewelry pop up. We had a store full of people all day long. It was so amazing. And just all of us celebrating the holiday season. And then that night I had to go to the emergency room.
It was too much.
It was, I mean, I was in so much pain. Nothing was helping. I couldn't get comfortable. I was swollen. Like my hands, we could see my hands swelling just watching them.
Watch it.
My face was swollen. My feet were so swollen they wouldn't even fit into my Uggs. I had to wear Matt's shoes to the hospital. It was wild. It was really wild. And then soon after that, though,
because it's just the inflammation of your body knows it's hurting, it's trying to fix it, but it doesn't know how.
Yeah, yeah. And so then it was after that, I think, is when I slowly was able to put together a really great medical team. I work with a rheumatologist at University of Chicago, and I work with a rheumatologist in Munster. And then they ended up diagnosing me with lupus. And then we had to get a kidney biopsy. And then that's when it showed some
heavy duty wear and tear on kidneys.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's just been something kind of big that we're handling. And, you know, there's just been a lot of factors and a lot of layers that have come with that. And
was it nice to get a final diagnosis? Was that at least some like, okay, I know what this is and now what's the plan? Or was it a heavy hit?
I think both, you know, I think like, yes, it's always good to be able to like pinpoint like why you're feeling a certain
I'm not
way.
a crazy person. I swear this is real. And now I have something that justifies all of my feelings.
Right. And then, I think when we got the kidney diagnosis, that was really hard. That was the first time I think I visibly saw Matt react to it. And then I also had a moment where I was like, why is this happening to us? Like, I don't know. It was a really scary message from my doctor that probably could have been worded differently. And so I think I just had this reaction, like, because, you know, it's like when they use words like serious, aggressive, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's just scary. And
Absolutely.
so I had this moment like, why is this happening to us? And I still think about that moment because I'm like, I wish I didn't think that. Because then the next day I woke up and I was like, this isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. Like for some reason, I'm meant to carry this. I don't know. Like I haven't, this is hard for me to talk about. So if you feel like I feel like I'm stuttering a little bit,
I think you're doing an incredible job. And of course it's hard.
I haven't like been able to tell many, like it was really hard to tell my team. And to be really honest, like obviously I told my mom everything, but then it got to a point where she was worrying so much that it was like so hard for me to talk to her about certain things. Like I didn't tell her about my kidneys for probably 2 weeks because
you just knew it was going to upset her.
I just didn't want her to have that weight on her. And so anyways, but yeah, I ended up like that next day or those next couple of days, because I remember it was a Friday night and I got the message from my doctor at like, it was 9:00 at night because
is this like on your portal or something?
This was on like your My Chart.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but then he left his cell phone number.
Okay.
And like that never happens.
No.
And so Matt was like, call him. And I'm like, it's Friday night at 9:30. Like,
and he's like, you're going to be selfish, darn it. This is what you need to do.
And we were like, I was like, I cannot call him right now. Like, what if he's out? And Matt was like, he is a doctor. He's home doctoring.
And if he isn't, he's about to be because you're about to call him.
Yes. Yeah. So I ended up talking to my doctor on a Friday night. And that's another thing that's so wild to me during this process. I'm so grateful for it. But all 3 of my doctors, so the 2 rheumatologists, and then I now have a nephrologist who's a kidney doctor.
Okay.
They call me directly. Like I have never had a doctor call me.
It's like
directly.
7 assistants later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
This is very impressive. That's great.
So they've really been incredible. And I feel so grateful that I have like that support. Cause I hear, I hear horror stories from, like never being able to contact your doctor, get a hold of your doctor or, whatever it might be.
Or just even putting that on My Chart and leaving for the weekend.
I know.
Easily just happened.
Yeah. So at least he left his phone number.
Yeah. So that's good. And do you feel like since you've been diagnosed, have you been able to learn more? Have you been able to, are there treatments and things that you can do that may have made it improved?
Yeah, I think so. So, I'm about 2 or 3 weeks removed from an 8-week treatment program I did. I had to go, like, it was once a week at the hospital where I'd sit there and get infusions of medication all day. And so with that, I do feel better overall. Like the pain, like the chronic pain is not there as much as it used to be, which makes me feel like a whole new woman, like I'm slowly doing Pilates classes at the new Pilates studio that opened up downtown at Merit Pilates. So,
great.
I try to do that like once a week and just to try to I really did lose so much muscle mass and everything just with not being able to do anything and like literally being horizontal so much, like in bed, on the couch. I don't know. So I think it's still going to be a bit of a journey ahead, and because everyone's experience with it is so individualized. So it's almost like coming up with like your individual cocktail of medication. That's
the treatments, the medications, all of those things.
Right.
If Pilates is helpful, then
sure.
Figuring it all out is just going to be quite a journey.
Yeah.
Sure.
All of the things. So
it sounds like that's where you are now is identifying issues and then how to help them. But then, but if we add a medication, how does that affect? So just kind of continually evolving that ball to just make it exactly what is perfect for you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So
people also need to hear about that stuff because I think it's same. We have, you mentioned autoimmune diseases in general are still so unknown and still each are so individualized that it really does have to be something you figure out on your own. So it's really good for other people to hear from you that that your journey and how you went through it and are going through it.
Right. And it's just it's such like an invisible disease, I guess. It's not like, I don't know, like a cold and you're like hacking up a lung and sniffling and things like that. It's just different. You know, and I like sometimes, you know, people who end up finding out or who I've told, like a lot of like reactions will be, oh my gosh, like you look great, or I would have never known. And I appreciate that so much. Like, thank you for telling me I look great. Like I appreciate that. But it's just so wild because it's like this individual, like I can't even explain it.
It's like custom to you.
It's custom to you, but it's like, you know that saying, like, you never know what someone's going through. Like, everyone's fighting a battle you don't know about.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of where that's huge in lupus, because it's like, thank you for thinking that I look great right now, but like, I lost so much hair at the beginning of the year.
Really?
That it's like the backside of my head is growing in now and I can't wear my hair down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like all these little things.
Well said, though. Like you never
just
know.
don't know what.
Yeah.
So, but I do appreciate people saying, "Are you okay? Well, thank you."
I can't tell that you've been sick, but
yes.
Which I get it. But yeah, at the same point, you're like, yeah, but I don't want people to be able to tell.
No,
but I also do wish people could understand the journey that I just went through in figuring this out, and then thus what I'm going through to try to fix it and make it better. Yeah, because you can't see it. That's true, and that's really hard. That's a great quote to bring up. I think just. It's a great memory or thing to remember for all of us. Is just you never really know what other people have on their plate.
Yeah.
Well said.
Sure.
So tell me, we mentioned early on work-life relationship, not necessarily balance, because that's just there is no such thing. Tell me what that looks like for you, and maybe it's even different now than it was years before. Are you always on? Do you really have scheduled time? Do you really schedule time to be off? Well, how do you make that Ella Jayms world and Sami Welter world kind of one in harmony?
I think that's something that is always going to evolve because every day looks so different, you know? And then I think back in my 20s, even my early 30s, I would say it was like so much work, you know, because I'm like trying to build my career, learn as much as I could. And I think this is something that my mom definitely instilled in me. And it's something that I always fall back on. It's like, if my name is attached to something, like you are going to get my all, like whatever it might be, whether it's cleaning a toilet or,
well said, I love that.
Like you are going to get, you're going to get 100% of my effort in that. So I think I've always been so on. And then I think the one thing now that is making me like redirect my attitude on that is this diagnosis, this health diagnosis, right? Because it's right now it's affecting like family goals that Matt and I have for the future. And for me, I've always wanted to have children. Like when I was little, growing up as an only child, I used to say like, I want 6 kids and I want a house full of noise and chaos and love. And and so, you know, like that's still the ultimate goal for us that I hope is still on the horizon. But this is definitely, you know, with different medications that I'm on and just the disease itself, it's definitely affected that. And so I think that's where I really had to kind of look at it from a different perspective, my work-life relationship, because whereas before I would work all day and then I would still work on the computer until like 11 or midnight at night.
Wow.
And it was just there's always something to do. Like as a business owner.
There is. And that's absolutely true.
Right. Like as a human being, like there's just always something that needs to be done, or like catching up with a friend even, you know, like things like that. And so now I don't do as much of that because I physically can't. Like lupus can also affect your brain, and we've all heard brain fog and things like that. And so what was wild is that when I was in a lot of pain, I was still able to like work on the computer. So I would be like in bed working on my computer. But it's kind of shifted to where when I'm working all day, I can tell I'm just so mentally exhausted. My brain feels googly. Like I don't know how else to explain it. And I'm sure people go through this. Like it's just decision fatigue, mental exhaustion, all the things. And so I like have to tell myself like, it's okay. Like put this away.
Yes.
Tomorrow is another day. I've had to learn how to like give myself grace and not getting the to-do list done that's on my Monday to-do list or something. And so I think that's still very much a struggle, but I think that's kind of where I'm at right now with this work-life relationship and being able to really listen to my body. And I hope that like we all go through burnout. And I think that that's what's important. Like you have to listen to your body, because if you don't take the rest and you're not okay with taking the rest, I've never been okay with resting. So I'm having to take this own advice of myself. But it's like, if you're not okay with taking the rest, your body is going to force you.
Yes. And taking the rest and caring for yourself and caring for your loved ones, or spending time with the friend, or spending time on your own, or in the Pilates class or whatever.
Right.
Those are things that also should be on that to-do list.
Right.
And since you can't there's always going to be something to do. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So make sure that you incorporate those too, because tomorrow always is going to have stuff to do too.
Yeah.
So what you do today is really important, but it's not because you have to get it all done. It's because you have to care about you.
Right.
You have to care for yourself as part of the to-do list. And if that means doing nothing in the evening, that's okay.
Yeah.
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 Smart.
Yeah.
So really probably focused you into caring for yourself a little bit more and caring about yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And listening, because that is really important.
Yeah.
And you can't do tomorrow at all.
Right.
If you don't take care of you today.
Yeah. 1000%. Yeah. So, So we, it's hard. Like obviously Matt has his companies as well. And so like when we do find time, like we love the evenings. We love like crawling into bed, watching a show with our pups, and just kind of like decompressing. And I've been, now that I'm feeling a little bit better too, like playing a little bit more golf with him. And thinking that I'm going to become this like really great golfer. So
then once you do, I want you to teach me.
Will do. Promise. Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're
figuring it out.
That's perfect. Yes. Yeah. And it's always, and I like that you talk about it like almost seasonally, like now is the Sami needs to care for Sami world. And then maybe in the future that changes in a shift. It should always be caring for yourself. But I think we all go through seasons where I'm coming out of a season. We just opened Michiana Life. So that's our 5th site.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I do feel like this last season, maybe the last 10 weeks, has really been work and career focused, because we had All About the Girls and we had this opening and we had all of the things that lead up to that. And it worked out well. And now I feel like I can go into a season that really is a lot more about self-care, getting back into my regular training, and I'm doing some races and how do I make sure that I'm ready for those and more me. And so I think that's fantastic, especially as I get older. I realize you've got to be aware of that, because then mentally, now that I'm aware of that season has closed as of, the weekend, I spent the time kind of reflecting and saying, okay, that really is done.
Yeah.
To now, what am I have to actually move into that next one so that I can take the proper steps to say, okay, if this is a season where I'm able to be more self-care based, then let's make sure we do that. And I think it is important for us to realize those and know that it will change.
You need to replenish, right?
Yeah.
You can't pour it from
always be. Yes, exactly. And it can't always be about your career, and it can't always be only about you. It really does have to change over time, because it's always going to anyway.
Yep.
And so we have to be able to roll with those punches and adjust accordingly, and ensuring that you're still going to come back around to now it's Sami time, or now it's Jenny's time to focus on Jenny.
Yeah.
My husband just started telling me like, now's the time where you need to be a little selfish. And I think as women, we're not taught that very often.
Right.
We're probably not told to do that ever. We're not even allowed to do that very often. And so to have others tell me that was kind of eye-opening for me. I'm learning. I'm not necessarily good at it yet.
I know.
But I like to care for others. And so for me, I never wanted kids, but I do like to care for other people. And so I want to help them and I want to care for them and I want to do all those things. But now, okay, I'm going to do that for me as well. And so I'm trying to literally get in the thought process of saying that to myself. Like, what are you going to do for you today? And what is that? And it's not have an extra beer. It's more so like you're going to get up and you're going to do the workout, or you're going to take a jog after work, or you're going to meditate on your lunch, or whatever it looks like. Who cares? But make sure you're doing that one thing. And it's hard.
It's so hard, but it's as hard as it is, it's that much more important.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for the speed round?
I am.
Okay. I've learned I have to take the buzzer because sometimes there's been some people that have stolen the buzzer. Maybe. So I couldn't buzz them. It's fine. Okay. So as most know, quick response questions. So I'm going to run through these really quick. You've got 5 seconds to answer before you get buzzed.
Okay.
Let's learn all about you.
Okay.
If you had to change your name, what name would you change it to?
Elizabeth Lowe.
Ooh, you had that ready too. I like that.
That was my grandma's name. And I used to want to change my name to that.
I just thought you like loved Rob Lowe or something.
No, I would beg my mom to be like, call me Elizabeth Lowe.
Oh my gosh. It does feel very classy. Like Elizabeth Lowe wears Chanel.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. 1000%. Yeah. My middle name is Elizabeth.
Okay.
And so I wanted to be like, I wanted to have their last name. I didn't understand why I needed to have my dad's last name.
I see. Yeah. As kids. I understand.
You know.
And then is your first name Sammy?
Samantha.
Samantha. Okay. I wasn't sure. That's a beautiful long name.
Thanks.
Samantha Elizabeth Ma.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks.
What has been your favorite age so far?
Okay. Oh, 25.
You're so close. I was like, hurry.
I know. I was staring at the buzzer.
These people on too. Like every guest, I'm always just like, I don't want to buzz you. Please don't make me. 24, you said. Okay.
And I don't know why. I also think like the best years to come still. So,
okay.
But I think 24 was like a huge, like I was living in another state by myself, like becoming an adult.
Isn't that the age that you mentioned when you got that promotion too, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really cool,
yeah.
You're kind of coming into your own, I bet.
Working really hard, but also maybe partying a little bit too.
Because 24, of course.
Yeah. So
perfect. I love that answer. If you could be one Disney character for a day, who would it be?
Goofy.
Oh, that was close too. That's a good one too. Goofy likes to laugh. I'm into it. Yeah, good answer. You're boarding an airplane right now. Where is it going?
Okay. Hong Kong with my mom.
Oh, good one. What is your favorite article of clothing that you own?
I have some really cool handbags that Matt has gotten me. So those would probably be my favorite right now. But like my whole closet is like 99.9% Ella Jayms. And it's a lot of like, we say like Ella Jayms like archives too, like from the first order. So I don't know. It's hard.
Because it's probably your whole closet is probably like the favorite of your collection.
Yes.
So with the nature of what you do, it's probably really hard to pick that. But that's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's okay. Breakfast, food, or dessert?
Dessert.
Tropical vacation or mountains?
Tropical.
Okay. Are you usually early, late, or right on time?
So late.
Really? You're on time today? Right on time.
Yes, but I just feel like I'm like when I have meetings with my team, I'm always like 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. So sorry. And it's the worst. I hate that. I hate myself for that.
Okay.
It's something
to work on.
Something I'm working on. Yeah. Yeah. When you pile too much on your plate.
Yeah. If you add too much, then you get late, and I'm the same. And then I'm mad at myself, and then I feel bad. And then I'm trying to tell myself, well, you did this and then you did that. I'm like justifying, like, well, you had all this stuff to.
I know.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Don't fight your own self in your brain.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Do you prefer to give or receive gifts?
Give.
What is your least favorite chore to do around the house?
Like cleaning toilets. Yeah, bathrooms. Yeah.
Bathrooms. That's a fair one. If you had free tickets to any concert, who would it be for?
Justin Timberlake.
Ooh, good one. Fan. Okay, I love that. New album. He's probably touring. Are you going to go?
We're going to try to go in Houston in December.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
And would that be like you and your husband? Would that be you and your girls? Like,
so Oh, I haven't
Best friends?
I haven't even told Matt about this plan.
Okay, so it's
but
girls.
yes, but like one of my best friends, Alyssa, is down there, and Lindsay, who works with us at Ella Jayms, is one of my dear friends as well. So we've seen Justin Timberlake in Houston a handful of years ago.
Okay.
All together. So we need to.
Oh, yes. That would be so perfect.
Yeah.
Send us a picture. We'll post it on the pod. What is one thing that you definitely need to sleep well? Weighted blanket, fan?
Honestly, my husband.
Yeah.
I sleep terribly. He's been traveling so much for work, and I sleep terribly when he's not home. Yeah.
And is it just empty bed? Is it the security of having him at the home in general? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I think probably all of it. And then our dogs are like on extra alert when he's not home. And so any little noise, they'll like bark at or growl or something. And so then it freaks me out. And it's just this,
Yeah, it's
snowball.
a whole cycle. Yeah. Would you prefer watching shows week by week or binging all at once?
Binge.
Do you cannonball or toe dip into a cold pool?
Toe dip. I'm such a baby.
I am too, but I cannonball all the way. I can't. Toe dip for me seems more painful.
I know. You're right.
And then I'm let's just get it over with.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Okay. Wannabe, probably by Spit.
Nice. Okay.
I mean, I did karaoke to that one time. I'm not really a karaoke-er.
Yeah, I think that's how you do it. Yeah, karaoke-er. I think that's right. But that would be, okay, that's a good one. What mythical creature can you believe is real?
A unicorn?
There you go.
That's
my favorite. Yes. Yeah.
Unicorn.
What is, I almost always kill this question because it's a strange one, but I'll say it since I already started to. What is one lighthearted hill that you would die on?
Oh.
Like, what's that one thing that you always push to people?
Okay, this is funny because I was just having a conversation with someone about this. I don't have like a specific thing, but I'm very much like about the principle of things.
Okay.
So it could be something like so minute and so like.
You're like, but at the end of the day, we signed in blue pen.
Yeah.
You signed in black pen, but we always say blue pen.
Yeah.
Is it like that premise?
Yes.
Okay.
1000%.
Like that's what we said. So
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing either, but like so.
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
See, that's it. You didn't even get buzzed. That's all of them. That one usually gets people mythical creature. Those are probably the ones that get people the most. Or the karaoke song. Again, a lot of people are like, oh, what if I don't karaoke? What would you sing?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I don't know.
Belt in the car,
yeah, what do you belt in the car? That's perfect. I just went and saw Alanis Morissette in concert. And it was like, okay, what songs can you scream sing the most? It's
her.
Alanis Morissette. Yeah, absolutely. So that's good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I do want to mention we have this really cutesy hat here in the frame. This is an Ella Jayms hat. So thank you for my gift. I will sport it proud. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to mention today? Anything that you didn't tell everybody that you want to tell everybody? Anything else?
I don't think so. I loved our conversation.
Me too.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
I would say come visit us at Ella Jayms.
Yes. So tell everybody where you are, location wise, and then how to connect with you online too, if they want to do that instead.
Yes. So we are on the corner of Franklin and Brown Street in downtown Valparaiso. So right across from the police department and about a block or two south of the courthouse. And we have a beautiful store, an even beautifuler team, if that's the word. So we would love to meet you all there. And then you can also find us online at ellajayms.com or at Ella Jayms on social media. We're very active on our social media platforms. So we love meeting and engaging with our community there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, Sami Welter, get to know her, stop into Ella Jayms, join her online or in the store, find all of her great stuff and get to meet her in real life. We'll talk to you soon next month and take care, everybody.